Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdata min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair. Let's continue our exercises. We have completed exercise number 1, and now we have some details about the handouts or about the main points that we discussed in the beginning of the lesson. Of course, we normally discussed in the beginning of the lesson in English, and now we have the same details, but we have them in Arabic. Yanqasimu is form number 7, and what is so important about this form that this form is passive. So whether we use the past tense or we use the present tense, it always gives the meaning of passive. So in qasama, when we talk about the past tense, it will be passive, and yanqasimu will also be passive, yani to be divided or to be distributed. So yanqasimu al-fi'lu, the verb is divided bi'tabari ma'nahu, by its meaning. i'tabara ya'tabiru i'tabaran, so bi'tabari ma'nahu, with regards to its meaning. Ila, to. Muta'addin, as we have discussed earlier, transitive. Walazimin, and intransitive. So muta'addin, as we know that this is ismul manqus, so there was ya in the end, but that ya has been dropped and it has been replaced with the kasratain. So it was basically muta'addin with alif maqsura. So but it has been dropped because this is manqus. So we have a verb which is called muta'addin, transitive, that means it needs object, and lazimin is intransitive, that means it does not need an object. Fal muta'addi, as for the transitive, so now we can see that whenever we use al with ismul manqus, then the ya comes back. So now we can see the ya over here, it has come back. Fal muta'addi, as for the transitive, ma, here this is ma al-mawsula, which means alladhi. So ma tajawaza yatajawazu means to surpass, to go beyond. Hadathuhu, its action. Al-fa'ila, to the fa'il. Ilal maf'ul bihi, to maf'ul bihi. So fal muta'addi ma tajawaza hadathuhu al-fa'ila ilal maf'ul bihi. So transitive verb is a verb where the action of the doer goes to the action or goes to the receiver of the action. So basically it has al-fa'il and it always needs maf'ul bihi. That's why we call it al-muta'addi. Nahwu, for example. Okay, now we need to know basically what is muta'addi, like grammatically, as we know that we always try to go down and see the root letters. So we have basically, if you take it into form number 2, it will be adda yu'addi. Adda yu'addi means to infect someone with the disease. For example, as we have the infection, when we say, it means adwa. So when we talk about corona, let's say, so we know that corona is infectious. It goes from one person to the, or it passes from one person to the other person. So this is called adda yu'addi ta'diyatan. Adda yu'addi ta'diyatan, that means to make someone infectious or to infect someone. So this is form number 2. When we take this form number 2 into form number 5, which is ta'adda yata'adda, so when we take it into form number 5, so then what happens? Form number 5 is the reflexive of form number 2. Form number 2 means you make someone do something or you make something happen, right? For example, we say allama. So allama means to teach. But when we talk about form number 5, it is reflexive of form number 2. That means to receive something. So when you say allama, that means to teach. But when we say ta'allama, what does that mean? Do you remember? Ta'allama, that means to learn. to learn. As we say, خيركم من, or as there is a hadith, خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. The best among you are those who learn Quran. That is خيركم من تعلم. So تعلم is to learn, وعلمه is to teach. So when we have extra ta with that, then it becomes from number 5. And from number 5 basically means to receive the action. So from ta'adda yata'adda we have muta'addi. So basically it means transitive. So if we look at the example, it says Bana Ibrahimu. Bana means to build, as we know this. Ibrahimu alayhi salamu al-Ka'bata. So Ibrahimu alayhi salamu is the fa'il, and al-Ka'bata is maf'ul bihi, and Bana is the verb. So Ibrahim alayhi salam built Kaaba. So here we will say that Bana is muta'addi. Why it is muta'addi? Because it needs object. So the object is here al-Ka'bata, and as we can see, it is mansoob. Fa'il is always marfu, and maf'ul bihi is always mansoob. Wahuwa yahtaju, and it needs ila fa'ilin, a doer, yaf'aluhu, who does it. So it needs a doer who performs the action. وَمَفْعُولٍ بِهِ يَقَعُ عَلَيْهِ, and مَفْعُولٍ بِهِ is something that receives the action. وَقَعَ يَقَعُ is to befall on something. So مَفْعُولٍ بِهِ is something where the action takes place. So fa'il is the doer of the action, and مَفْعُول بِهِ is the receiver of the action, or where the action takes place. وَعَلَامَتُهُ أَن يَقْبَلَ هَاءَ الضَّمِيرِ, and its sign is that it accepts qabila yaqbalu, it accepts ha ad-damiri, which is the ha of the pronoun. What does that mean, ha ad-damiri? That means it can be who and it can be ha. So that's why we call it ha ad-damir. Allati, which ta'udu, goes back or returns, ilal maf'ul bihi, that goes back to maf'ul bihi. So if we look at the example, it will be very clear. Nahwu, for example, qara'a Bilalun ad-darsa. Bilal read a lesson, right? So qara'a is the verb, Bilalun is fa'il, and ad-darsa is maf'ul bihi. Now let's try to replace maf'ul bihi with who. If we replace it with who, so it will be wafahimahu, and he understood it. Wafahimahu. So who refers to what? It refers to the lesson. Wafahimahu, and he understood it. Now basically the idea over here is, whenever you take a verb, and you will find this in most of the books that are written in Arabic. So for example, you take a verb in Arabic and then try to put who or ha with that. Try to use the attached pronoun who or ha with that. If it is possible to put it there, and then that means it is muta'addi. And if you cannot put it there, then it means it is lazim. For example, we have the verb dhahaba, he went. Okay, can we add who to dhahaba? Is it possible to add who with that? Dhahaba, he went. So can we say he went him? Is this possible? No.
No, it's not possible.
It's not possible. So try to put who or ha after that. If it is possible to put who or ha after that, if it is possible, that means it is muta'addi. And if you cannot put who or ha after that, that means it is lazim. So this is also one of the ways of knowing if the verb is lazim or muta'addi. So fahima, after fahima, when we put who, that means it is muta'addi, because it is possible to put who after that. Similarly, ra'aytu hasharatan sammatan, I saw a poisonous insect, or I saw a poisonous insect. So ra'aytu, I saw, fail plus file, hasharatan maf'ul bihi, and sammatan is the adjective. I saw a poisonous insect. فَقَتَلْتُهَا, and I killed it. قَتَلْتُ. So after قَتَلْتُ, is it possible to put ha?
Yes,
Yes.
I killed.
Yes, and I killed it. So if it is possible to put who or ha after that, that means it is mutaaddi. So if you look at the verb, for example, we have qatala, he killed, and after that we want to say that he killed him. Qatala who? So it's possible. So that means this is mutaaddi. Or qatalaha, he killed her. So that means it is mutaaddi. But when we say kharaja, he went out. So kharaja, can we add who with that?
No,
Kharajahu?
sir. This
No, it's not possible. Excellent. So that means this is lazim. So if you add hu or ha after that, if it is possible to add, that means it is mutaaddi, it is transitive. And if you cannot put hu or ha with that, that means it is lazim or it is intransitive. So I hope it's easier now and it's clear now. And also we have learned in the previous lesson that if you put two questions, for example, what was the action performed on, and who was the action performed on. So, what was the receiver of the action and who was the receiver of the action? So, if we have the answer that that thing or that person was the receiver of the action, so that means it is mutaaddi. And if we don't have the answer to this question, that means it is lazim. So now you have two ways to know. One way is that you can use the attached who or ha, and the other way is in English you can see what was the action performed on and who was the action performed on. If you receive the answer, for example, فقتلتها, and I killed her. So what was the action performed on? The action was performed on the insect. So when we have something that received the action, that means it is mutaaddi, it is transitive. واللازم, and intransitive, ma alladhi. So what is the difference between ma and alladhi? I told you before, if you remember. Why do we not have alladhi here and why do we have ma here? Both of them have the same meaning. Both of them are what do we call them? Pronouns, and they are basically
man.
mhm, yes, al mawsula. This is ma al mawsula, okay, relative pronoun. But what is the difference between ma and alladhi?
Ma, it comes with the mudari, sir.
Okay,
أدري يا أستاذ غير أكل.
okay, very good, fine. So if I say al-kitabu alladhi ishtaraytahu ghaliyan, so al-kitab is غير akil. We can use alladhi with that. You need to remember these small details. Look, ma is a common noun and alladhi is a proper noun. How it's a proper noun? It has al with that. Al plus ladhi. So it is al plus ladhi. So why we have tashdid on that? That means that there is combination of two lams. So that's why it is used with something that is specific. So that's why we say alladhi allama bil qalam. Alladhi allama bil qalam. So you see over there. So it refers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why whenever it refers to a specific person, then we have to use alladhi. And when we talk about something which is unspecific, then we have to use ma. So it's a common noun and alladhi is a proper noun. So you say الطالب الذي خرج من البيت زميلي, or you can say صديقي. الطالب الذي خرج من البيت. So the student who left the house. So why do we use الذي? Because الطالب is someone specific. But if you are talking about something which is not specific, then we will use ma. Did you get the difference between ma and alladhi?
Yes, Ustad.
All right. So ma la yata'addi atharuhu fa'ilahu. So lazim is what it does not go beyond. What does not go beyond? Atharuhu, its effect. Fa'ilihi, from the fa'il. Yani lazim is a verb which or whose like athar or whose effect does not go beyond the doer. So that means it is only the doer, and after the doer, the action stops. Nahu, for example, kharaja at-tullabu. The students left or the students went out. So we have fail plus file. So this is lazim because after that we do not need maful bihi. Similarly, we have farih al-mudarrisu. The teacher was happy. So what do we have? We have fail plus file. So what is lazim? Ma la يتعدى أثره فاعله, whose impact does not go beyond the doer. So here we don't have anything beyond the doer, we only have the doer over here, so that's why we call it lazim. In simple words we will say it does not need object, it does not require object. لا يحتاج الفعل اللازم إلى مفعول به, as it is written over here that intransitive verb فعل لازم does not require مفعول به. قد يتعدى, قد يتعدى. So when we use قد with the present tense, then it means sometimes. Then it means sometimes, because we know that قد comes with the past tense. قد أفلح المؤمنون, قد قامت الصلاة, and it comes with the past tense and it comes with emphasis. But when it comes with the present tense, then it gives the meanings of sometimes. قد يتعدى الفعل اللازم بواسطة حرف الجر. But sometimes it becomes intransitive. Why or how? Through the preposition, as we discussed in the handouts, that if we want to change a verb that is lazim into mutaaddi, we can change it with the preposition. For example, غضب المدرس, the teacher was angry. Okay, fine. غضب المدرس, the teacher became angry. That's fine. But if you want to bring maf'ul bihi, على الطالب الكسلاني, on the lazy student. So now we need to bring maf'ul bihi. So we have to bring maf'ul bihi using the preposition. So الطالب الكسلاني, basically الطالب is maf'ul bihi. But what kind of maf'ul bihi is this? Indirect object. Indirect object. So this is called sarih, yani direct object. Direct object comes without the preposition, whereas indirect object comes with the preposition. So we will say غضب is fail, al-mudarrisu is fa'il, and at-talib is maf'ul bihi. But is it direct object or indirect object? Indirect object. Why? Because it comes after the preposition. Alright, what is the i'rab of at-talibi? Apparently it is majroor. Apparently it is majroor. Why? Because it comes after ala.
على
But mahallan, it is mansub. What does that mean? It is in the place of the object. Yes? So because it is in the
yes.
place of the object, then we will say that mahallan, it is object. But when we look at with the naked eye, originally it is majroor, but mahallan it is mansub. ذهبت بالمريض إلى المستشفى. ذهبت, I went. Okay, ذهبت إلى المدرسة, I went to the school. But when we use the preposition of be, then it means to take. Then it means to take, and after that we have to bring the object. So ذهبت بالمريض إلى المستشفى, I took the patient to the hospital. ذهب الله بنورهم. We have discussed that example as well, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away the light of their eyes. And here we have ذهبت بالمريض إلى المستشفى, I took the patient to the hospital. And then the next example is نظرت إلى الجبل, I looked at the mountain. So نظرت is fail plus file, I looked, and al-jabal is maf'ul bihi, but it is maf'ul bihi غير صريح, and this is indirect object, or it is indirect maf'ul bihi. So I looked at the mountain. قال صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم فمن رغب عن سنتي فليس مني. So here we have a beautiful hadith, faman, and whoever. Raghiba an, as we have discussed in the previous lessons, that when we say raghiba an, that means to turn away. So man raghiba an sunnati, who goes away or turns away from my sunnah, falaysa minni, so he is not from us, or he is not among us. That means whoever does not follow the sunnah way, which is the way of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that means he is not from us. That means he is not a true Muslim, or he is not a real Muslim. So that's why we have to try our level best to do whatever we do in our lives. We have to make sure that it is according to the Sunnah. And how do we know? Of course, from Quran, from Hadith, And from Sahaba, we come to know that how the action was performed. For example, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that we have to eat with the right hand all the time. لا تأكل بالشمال فإن الشيطان يأكل بالشمال. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, don't eat with the left hand because shaitan eats with the left hand. So if we eat with the right hand, we are following the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if we eat with the left hand, that means we are not following his sunnah. And if we are not following his sunnah, that means we are not among him or from him. So that's why we have to try our level best to spend each and every day. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given us all the 24 hours of our lives. He has told us how to spend them according to Sunnah, how to sleep, how to wake up, how to go to the bathroom, how to enter the masjid. All the etiquette he has taught us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we have to make sure that as many sunnahs we can follow, we should try to follow, starting from sleeping to waking up to spending the whole day and to sleeping again. Every time the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam should be in our eyes or in front of our eyes. Next is uridu, I want, an attali'a, to have a look, ala manhaji, at the syllabus, madrasatika, of your school. I want to have a look at the syllabus of your school. We have discussed it in one of the previous lessons. So uridu, I want, fail plus file. An attali'a is masdar al-mu'awwal maf'ul bihi al-awwal, and ala manhaji is maf'ul al-thani, madrasatika, of your school. لا أرغب في السفر هذا الأسبوع. So رغب في means to like something, and رغب عن is to dislike something. So we have discussed in the previous lesson. So لا أرغب في السفر, I am not interested in traveling هذا الأسبوع, and this week, يعني this week I do not want to travel. ويسمى مفعول مثل هذا الفعل غير صريح, and the object of the verbs like these is called غير صريح, yani it is called indirect object. So what do we call it? We call it indirect object. What is indirect object? That comes after the preposition. For example, after fi, and we can see after ala and after an. So whatever comes after that, that will be called مفعول به غير صريح. وهو مجرور لفظا, and it is majrur when we look at the word. So بحرف الجر, because with the حرف الجر it is majrur. ومنصوب محلا, and it is in the place of nasb, or it is in the place of object. على أنه مفعول به غير صريح, because it is indirect object. So as we discussed earlier, that why do we call it غير صريح? Because it is indirect object. Why it is indirect object? Because it comes after the preposition. So لفظا, it is majrur. As we can see, when you look at the word لفظا, it is majrur, it looks majrur. But mahallan, it is mansub, because it is in the place of the nasb. Did you get the idea?
Yes, Ustad.
All right, excellent. طيب, if you got the idea, then we do the exercise over here. Now it says ميز اللازمة من المتعدي فيما يلي. So we have to sort out, or we have to distinguish. So ميز, which verb form is this, and what kind of verb is this? Form number?
فعل الأمر أستاذ ميز.
Excellent.
To
Form number
ميز
2.
يميز
And this is
التمييز.
فعل الأمر. أحسنتي. Yes. ميز الفعل اللازمة من المتعدي فيما يلي. So it means sort out or distinguish the transitive and the intransitive verbs in the sentences. يشرح المدرس الدرس مرتين. The teacher explained the lesson twice. Yes, يشرح. Is it لازم or متعدي?
متعدي.
Well, excellent. It is متعدي because we have the object مفعول به, which is الدرس. Perfect, excellent. ضحك الطلاب. The students laughed.
اللازم.
اللازم. Perfect. It is lazim because we have only the file and it does not need مفعول به. Perfect. رجع أبي البارحة. My father returned last night.
فعل لازم.
It's لازم.
Excellent. It is lazim. Okay. رجع. Perfect. Al-barihata, as we know that this is dharf. Yes, dharf zaman. So whenever we have dharf in a sentence, that means that verb is lazim. So whenever you have verb in the sentence, that means this is lazim and it's not muta'addi. حفظت القرآن وأنا صغير. I memorized the Quran while I was small.
متعدي فعل
Excellent.
المتعدي
متعدي. Perfect. حفظت, I memorized, fail plus file, and Al-Quran is maful bihi. And if you want to check, double check, you want to put here who. حفظته, I memorized it. So that means it is muta'addi because we can use who with that. وأنا صغير. What kind of wow is this? Come on.
Hal Ustad.
Excellent. Wow al-hal. Why? Because after that we have a complete nominal sentence. So whenever you have a complete nominal sentence or verbal sentence after wow, it has mubtada and khabar. That means this is wow al-hal. Ijlis huna. Sit here.
Is this lazim, Ustad?
Lazim. Yes, sit here. So it does not need object. There is no object, so it is lazim. Iftah al-baba. Open the door. وأغلق النوافذ, and close the windows.
Mutad.
It's mutad.
Yes, متعديتان. Yes, متعديتان. Yes, because both of them, افتح and أغلق, both of them are متعدي. Excellent. أمر الله تعالى إبراهيم عليه السلام بذبح ابنه إسماعيل عليه السلام. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered Ibrahim alayhi salam to slaughter his son Ismail alayhi salam. Yes.
Mutaddi.
متعدي. Okay, Amara is متعدي. And what about بذبح ابنه?
Uh,
Indirect. Indirect.
It is also متعدي, but it is indirect object. But it is متعدي because when you talk about ذبح, to slaughter, so you need someone or something to be slaughtered. So that's why you say ذبحت بقرة, I slaughtered a cow. So that means it needs an object. So that means it is متعدي. Perfect. نام الطفل. The child slept. Can we nama who? Can we put who with that?
Lazim.
It's lazim, yeah. The child slept.
lazim.
Child slept. Okay. So that's it. There does not need any object. If you want to bring object, you will say fistariri, then it will be indirect object. But when you say nama tiflu, the child slept, then this is this is lazim. Yes. قمت.
Lazim.
Yes. قمت من النوم متأخرا. I woke up late.
So it's lazim.
Lazim. Perfect. Why it is lazim?
It is not.
Because of minan naumi, because we have, yes, we have indirect object. So because it has indirect object, that's why it will be lazim. It is lazim. Qumtu is lazim. Qama yaqumu is lazim, right? But when we use minan naumi, then it will be mutaaddi. Did you get the idea? Qama yaqumu. Qama is lazim, right? It is lazim. It does not
lazim.
need object. Qama Bilalun. Bilal stood up. So it does not need
Okay.
object, right? So this is lazim, isn't it? But if we have the
Yes.
preposition and the indirect object, then it becomes mutaaddi. نعبد الله ولا نشرك به شيئا.
Mutaddi.
متعدي. So both of them. نعبد. So فعل plus file and اسم الجلالة is مفعول به. نعبد الله ولا نشرك. أشرك يشرك إشراكا. And we do not associate به شيئا, anything with him. So this is our aqidah, that we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we do not associate anything with him. We know that this is form number 4, and form number 4 is always mutaaddi. It always needs object. Sometimes it needs one object and sometimes it needs two objects. Lam akul shayan. I did not eat anything. Yes.
متعدية صح؟
Mutaaddi, yes, because when you eat, you have to have something to eat, isn't it? So when you eat something, that means it will be definitely object. So you say akaltu tufahatan, I ate an apple, so something has to be there, so it is mutaaddi. Taiba al ummalu. The workers got tired.
لازم.
Lazim,
lazim.
perfect. Yeah, it does not need object. Excellent. Rahabtu bid I welcomed the visitors or the guests.
It's متعدي أستاذ.
متعدي, perfect. And it is متعدي. It is
بي
with
بي
be, perfect. It is غير صريح object, which is مفعول به غير صريح. Excellent. Alhamdulillah. So I'm happy that we are able to figure out whether the verbs are lazim or متعدي. يصير الفعل اللازم متعديا. صار يصير means to become. It is also the sister of kana. So يصير الفعل اللازم, فعل اللازم becomes what? متعديا. It becomes متعدي. How? بنقله, by transferring it إلى, to, بابي أفعل وفعل. So when we transfer it to two forms or two verb forms, which is form number 4 and 2, af'ala and fa'ala, then it becomes transitive, or it becomes muta'addi. Yani lazim fail becomes muta'addi. How? When we transfer it into form number 4 and form number 2. Babai. What is babai?
because to and
بيني
that is the place of مفعول به.
Okay, perfect. So it was basically babani, babaini, babaini. It was babaini because of ila. It is babaini, and the noon has been dropped. Why the noon has been dropped? Babaini, because it is mudaf.
مضاف.
It is mudaf. Yes, excellent. So either we can say af'ala and fa'ala are mudaf ilayh, or we can say mudaf ilayh is mahdhuf. But it is babani, babaini, babaini, and we know that whenever we use the dual, whenever we use it as mudaf, the noon gets dropped. So tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab. So it was yadan, and the noon has been dropped. So yadani, yadaini, yadaini. So we say baina yadaik. So when we say baina yadaik, then the yadaini, the noon gets dropped. So it is babai, af'ala wa fa'ala. So fil lazim, whenever we put it or bring it into fil af'ala or form af'ala wa fa'ala, then it becomes muta'addi. Then it becomes muta'addi. Kama, as yattahidu, it is clear or it becomes clear. Min al amthilatil atiyati, from the following examples. As it becomes clear from the following examples. Look at the following examples. Kharaja Hamidun min al fasli. Hamid went out of the classroom. So we can see here that kharaja is lazim. But when we bring it into form number 4, akhraja, so we know that form number 4 is always mutaaddi. Sometimes it needs one object and sometimes it needs two objects. So here it has two objects. No, one object over here. So akhraja al mudarrisu. So the teacher sent out or the brought out Hamidan, Hamid min al fasli. So the teacher sent Hamid out of the classroom. So it was kharaja, he went out, Hamid went out by himself. But when we say akhraja, then it becomes mut'addi, and then we say that the teacher sent Hamid out of the classroom. Nazal al jarihu min as-sayyarat al-is'afi. The injured person came out of the ambulance. So Nazala, he came down. Who came down? Al jarihu, the injured person or the one who was injured. So the injured person came down. We know Nazala is lazim, but when we bring it into form number 4, when we say anzala, then it becomes muta'addi. So anzala al-mamarriduna, the male nurses brought al-jariha, the patient or the injured person, min sayarat al-isafi, from the ambulance. So anzala al-mamarriduna al-jariha, the male patients brought down the wounded person from the ambulance. ممرضون is the file and al-jariha is maf'ul bihi. So here it is lazim. Why? Because the wounded person or the one who was injured, he came down by himself from the ambulance. But here it is muta'addi. Why? Because here the person was brought down by the nurses, by the male nurses. جلس الطالب الجديد أمام المدرس. The new student sat in front of the teacher. أجلس المدرس. The teacher made the student sit. الطالب الجديدة. The new student أمامه, in front of him. So here the student sat by himself, but here the teacher made him sit in front of him. So that's why from here, from lazim, it has become muta'addi. Ba, which is B, نزل الطفل من الطائرة. The child came down from the aeroplane. نزلت الطفل من الطائرة. I brought the child down from the aeroplane. So what happened here? The child came down by himself. But what happened here? The child was brought down by someone. So who brought him down? I brought him down by myself. So نزلت الطفل من الطائرة. So here it was lazim, but here it has become muta'addi. نام المريض. The patient slept. All right. So nama is lazim. This is fail and al-maridu is file. Nawama. He put him on sleep. What did put him on sleep? Ad-dawa'u. The medicine put him on sleep. Who? Al-marida, the patient. So nawama ad-dawa'u al-marida. The medicine put the patient on sleep. So here nawama is to put someone on sleep. So nawama yunawimu tanwiman. Uridu an unawima. You can say tifli. I want to put my son on sleep. But when you say nama tiflu, we will say the child slept. Alright, so what are the root letters of nama?
Navima.
Excellent. So this is noon and wow and meme. Excellent. So nawima. One of the ways of knowing or to figure out what are the root letters, when you look at this form of the verb, which is form 2, so whenever you see that wow has been put over there, so that means the root letters are noon, wow, and meme. So it is basically nama, yanamu, nawema, yanamu, nama, yanamu. So this is thalathi al-mujarrad, and this is bab taf'il. Excellent. Naja ركاب السيارة التي انقلبت. Naja survived. Rukabu is the plural of rakibun. So the passengers of the rukabu sayyarati, of the car, survived. Allati, which inqalabat, capsized or turned down. So the passengers of the car that capsized survived. So they survived by themselves. Najjallahu ركاب السيارة التي انقلبت. So now we can see over here that najja means he survived. Who survived? Allahu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Najjallahu ar-rukaba as-sayyarati. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like survived rukab as-sayyarati allati inqalabat, and the passengers of the cars that capsized. So here they survived by themselves. It is lazim, and here it is muta'addi. Najja yunajji tanjiyatan. إذا نقل الفعل المتعدي إلى مفعول واحد إلى هذين البابين تعدى إلى مفعولين. نحو, for example. Okay, what kind of sentence is this? Can you please tell me? I want you to remember the past points as well, past things that we have learned. So what kind of sentence is this? إذا. Why do we use إذا?
شرطية أستاذ.
Excellent. Jumlatu shartiyya. Perfect. So whenever we talk about al-jumlatu shartiyya, that means there has to be a shart and there has to be jawab shart. So let's look at the shart first. إذا, when. Nuqila is the passive. الفعل المتعدي when the transitive verb is transferred إلى مفعول واحد to one object. So here إلى مفعول واحد to one object. إلى to, so we have another إلى هذين البابين, towards these two babs. تعدى إلى مفعولين, then it is made transitive towards two objects. So where is جواب الشرط? Okay, what is هذين? هذين is اسم الإشارة. هذاني, هذين, هذين. So هذا means this, and هذين, these two. So هذين, as we can see, this is majroor, so that's why it is هذين. إلى هذين البابين, when it is transferred to these two أبواب. So where is جواب الشرط? This is جواب الشرط. تعدى إلى مفعولين, then it becomes transitive to two objects. So what it is very simple. What is very simple about it? That if we have a verb that is transitive and it has one object, when we take it into form number 2, and when we take it into form number 2 and form number 4, then it requires two objects. So if a verb is transitive, it is muta'addi, and it needs one object, when we transfer it into form number 2 and form number 4, then it requires what? Two objects. Did you get the idea? So all this part is shart up till here, and this part is jawab shart. You need to look at these things. For example, if you look at the example, it will be inshallah easier for you to understand. Sami'a al-mudarrisu al-Qur'ana. The teacher listened to the Quran. Sami'a is fail. Al-mudarrisu fa'il. Al-Qur'ana maf'ul bihi. How many objects do we have over here? One object. Okay. Now, if we take this verb into form number 4, which is asma'a. So asma'a is to make someone, listen. So asma'a al-tullabu al-mudarrisa al-Qur'ana. So the students recited the Quran to the teacher. So now, how many objects are there? Object number 1, al-mudarrisa, and al-Qur'ana is object number 2. So that's what we have over here, that when a verb has one object, as we can see over here, so when it has one object, when we transfer it into form number 4 or form number 2, then it needs two objects. So asma'a at-tullabu al-mudarrisa al-Qur'ana, the students recited the Quran to the teacher. So here it has two objects. Fahima at-talibu ad-darsa, the student understood the lesson. So ad-darsa is only object number 1, and there is only one object. Fahama al-mudarrisu, the teacher made understand at-taliba, the student, ad-darsa, the lesson. So the teacher made the student understand the lesson. How many objects are there?
Two objects.
What are those?
Taliba,
At-taliba, ad-darsa. Perfect. So fahima is form number 1, but when we bring it to form number 2, then it requires two objects. So here this is form number 4 and this is form number 2. So in either case, when a verb has one object, when we transfer them to form number 2 or form number 4, then they need two objects. I hope this is clear now. All right, so if it's clear now, then what we are going to do now? We are going to do exercise. It says أدخل كل فعل. So أدخل, yes please, tell me what kind of verb form is this? Excellent. So form number 4, أدخل is فعل الأمر. Excellent. أدخل كل فعل مما يأتي في جملتين. So each of the verbs that comes down or that follows, we have to use it into two sentences. في الجملة الأولى كما هو. In the first sentence, we have to use it as it is. وفي الجملة الثانية, and in the second sentence, بعد إدخال همزة التعدية عليه. And in the second sentence, we have to change it into form number 4 by using همزة التعدية. عدى يعدي تعدية. So what is همزة التعدية? This hamza is called همزة التعدية. Why it is called همزة التعدية? Because this hamza changes a verb that is lazim into mutaaddi. So that's why we say that form number 4 is always mutaaddi, it is always transitive, it always needs an object. So what do we call this? What is the name of this hamza? This hamza is called hamzatut ta'diyah. So kharaja Hamidun min al-fasli. Hamid went out of the classroom. So it is as it is. We do not change it. But when we change it into form number 4, it becomes akhraj al-muraqibu Hamidan min al-fasli. The controller asked Hamid to leave the class, or the controller brought Hamid out of the classroom. Dakhala. Okay, try to use dakhala in a sentence.
دخل المدرس
Al-fasla. Excellent. Yes, or دخل المريض المستشفى. The patient entered the hospital. Now we have to change it into form number 4. أدخل. أدخل means he entered, okay? So we say أدخل الناس المريض على المستشفى. People entered the patient to the hospital. So here the patient entered the hospital himself, but here he was brought to the hospital by the people. Jalasa, he sat. Jalasa Hamidun أمام المدرس. Hamid sat in front of the teacher. Okay, what will be the form 4 of Jalasa? Ajlasa. Ajlasa means he made him sit. Okay. Ajlasa al-mudarrisu Hamidan amamahu. And the teacher made Hamid sit in front of him. Excellent. Nazala, he came down. Nazala al-Qur'ana fi Ramadana. Quran came down in Ramadan. Okay.
Allah أنزل الله قرآن. Allah sent Quran
في رمضان.
in Ramadan.
ما شاء الله تبارك الله. Yes. أنزل الله القرآن في رمضان. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Quran in Ramadan. ضحك, he laughed. ضحك الطفل, we can say the child laughed. Okay. I made the child laugh. Try
Mother
to,
mother made the
no, if you you say I made the child laugh.
أضحكت الطفلة.
أضحكت الطفل. Perfect. أضحك يضحك إضحاكا, to make someone laugh. Perfect. So here we have أضحك الأب الطفل. The father made the child laugh. But if you want to say I made him laugh, أضحكته, I made him laugh. Perfect. Baka means to cry. He cried. Baka, and we have here, for example, we say Bakatil bintu, the girl cried. And if we say that the girl was made to cry or something like that, so we will say Abka al-ju'u al-binta. So what made the girl cry? Hunger. Hunger made the girl cry. So if the little girl was crying, so why was she crying? Because of the hunger. So hunger made the little girl cry. Abka. Okay. Samia, to listen. Samia al-mudarrisu ad-darsa, the teacher listened to the lesson. Okay. And yes, asma' al-talibu al-mudarrisa ad-darsa. The student made the teacher listen to the lesson. Yani, the teacher read the lesson to the teacher. I think we can do one more exercise, inshallah. Here it says أدخل كل فعل مما يأتي في جملتين. The same thing. Use each of the following verbs into 2 sentences. في الجملة الأولى كما هو, in the first sentence as it is. وفي الجملة الثانية بعد تضعيفه ضعف يضعف تضعيفا, to double something, to make something double. بعد تضعيفه أي يعني معناها نقله إلى باب فعل, by transferring it or by changing it into bab fa'ala. So now we have to change the verbs into fa'ala, which is from number 2. Darasa, he studied. درس حامد لغة العربية. Hamid studied or learned Arabic language. What will be the form 2 of darasa?
درس
Darasa. What will be the meaning of darasa? Darasa means he taught. Excellent. درس بلال حامدا اللغة العربية. Bilal taught Hamid Arabic language. So here we need maful bihi. Why? Because we know that this form is also it is transitive, so it always needs an object. So here we can see Bilal is the subject and Hamid is the object. So this is object number 1 and al-lughata is object number 2. Khafa, he was scared. خاف الطفل الهرة. The child was scared of the cat. خاف يخاف. Okay, so خوف الأب الطفل الهرة. Okay, so the father of the child made the cat to be scared, or the father of the child scared the cat. خوف. What will be the root letters of خاف?
حبيفة ووفى
Excellent. Kha, wow, fa. How did you figure out?
حذف يهبف from that حاف يهوف.
Yes. So, as I told you, that sometimes if you have the verb that is ajwaf, and if you are not sure if we have wow or ya over there, so when we look at form number 2, then that wow comes out. The wow that is hidden over here, that wow is hidden because that has been replaced with alif. Here it is hidden. But then in form number 2, it comes out. So we can see like nama, nawama, to put someone on sleep. So khafa, khawafa, to make someone scared. So khawaftuhu fakhafa. I scared him and he got scared. So if you say khawaftuhu fakhafa, so I made him scared and he was scared. So that means the root letters are kha, waw, and fa. So khawafa means to make someone scared. Nama, he slept. So we say nama al-maridu, the patient slept. So we say nawama ad-dawa'u al-marida. So what happened over here? The medicine put the patient on sleep. Excellent. So here, who is the doer of the action? Ad-du'a. And who is the receiver of the action? Al-marid. And where is the verb? It is nawama. So what will be the root letters of nama? Noon, wow, and meme. The same formula that we have applied over here, it applies over here. So now we are able to figure out the root letters are noon, wow, and meme. Hafidha, he memorized. Hafidha, let's say Al-Qur'ana, he memorized the Qur'an. Or Hafidha Hamidun, Surat al-Mulki, Hamid memorized Surat al-Mulk. To make someone memorize. حفظ حفظ المدرس حامدا سورة الملك. The teacher made Hamid memorize Surah al-Mulk. So here he memorized by himself, and here he memorized Surah al-Mulk with the help of the teacher, or the teacher made him memorize Surah al-Mulk. Jaffa, to be dry. Yes. So Jaffa al-Thawbu, the garment was dry, or the garment was dried. So you want to change it into form number 2. Jaffafa, right? Jaffafa, yujaffifu tajfifan, to make something dry. Okay, so we say Jaffafat shamsu at-thawba, the sun made the garment dry. Why it is jaffafat? Why the feminine verb?
Because of Shams.
Ashams is feminine in Arabic language. Excellent. So now we have a very good practice of form number 2 and form number 4. We have already completed 2 lessons individually, and now we have one complete lesson which is based on form number 2 and form number 4, because these are the most important forms of the Arabic language and they are used a lot in the Quran. And inshallah, I'm very sure that now you have a very good idea of these 2 forms. So I would also ask you again that please, whenever you are reciting the Quran, pay a very special attention to these two forms, and inshallah you will be able to understand most of the verbs of the Quran. And after doing these two forms, inshallah, I can say that now we are able to understand at least 70% of the Quran. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among Ahlul Quran. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكرا أستاذ.
عفواً.